Hello and welcome to this video lesson on angles and triangles. In this lesson, we'll learn how to classify angles and how to classify triangles. The purpose of this video lesson is to give you a brief overview of these concepts, not to explore them in depth. Before we begin, here's a quick review of what an angle is. In geometry, we say that an angle is the figure formed by two line segments called rays sharing a common endpoint called the vertex of the angle. Angles are measured in degrees. To understand angles, let's think about an analog clock. A clock is a circle, and the two hands can help us represent different angles. Remember that the sides of an angle are called rays, so we can think of the hands of the clock as the rays of an angle. Each clock is a circle with a total of 360 degrees. As we move the hands of the clock around in this circle, they sweep out wedges of different sizes, and we can measure each of these wedges in degrees. For example, if the hour hand is at 12 and the minute hand moves to 3, we sweep out a wedge that is 1/4 of the full circle. 1/4 of 360 is the same as 360 divided by 4, which gives us 90 degrees. If we move the minute hand forward to 6, we sweep out another wedge that equals 1/4 of the full circle, or another 90-degree angle. Adding these two angles together gives us 180 degrees. If we move the minute hand forward again to 9, we sweep out a third wedge that equals 1/4 of the circle, adding another 90 degrees, and our new angle measures 270 degrees. Moving the minute hand back to 12 sweeps out a final 90-degree wedge, completing the circle and bringing us to 360 degrees. Let's review our wedges and name some of the angles. The first wedge we made by moving the minute hand to the 3 measures 1/4 of 360 degrees, which we know is 90 degrees. We call angles that measure 90 degrees right angles. The two rays that form the angle are perpendicular to each other. When we moved the minute hand to 6, we swept out another 90-degree angle and cut the circle in half. Half of 360 degrees is 180 degrees. The two rays that form the angle make a straight line, and we call angles that measure 180 degrees straight angles. That's easy to remember, isn't it? When we moved the minute hand all the way back to 12, the two rays of the angle were lying right on top of each other, and we had completed the circle. We call an angle that measures 360 degrees a complete angle. To remember this name, just think about completing the circle. We can find angles all over the place in real life, not just in clocks, but in windows and door frames, roof lines, and road signs. Not all of these angles fit neatly into the categories we just learned, though. For example, the angles on this road sign. We can tell that these angles are close to right angles, but they're definitely smaller than right angles. Angles that measure less than 90 degrees are called acute angles. We can visualize this by moving the minute hand past 12, but not as far as 3. Let's stop at 2. In this road sign, we see some angles that are obviously greater than 90 degrees, but also obviously less than 180 degrees. These angles, measuring greater than 90 degrees and less than 180 degrees, are called obtuse angles. We can visualize this by moving the minute hand past 3, but not as far as 6. Let's stop at 4. Take a look at this delicious cake with a slice missing and think about the part of the cake that is left. We can see that the sides of the cut part of the cake can form the rays of an angle. Thinking about the part of the cake that's left, we see that the angle formed is greater than 180 degrees, but less than a complete angle of 360 degrees. Angles that measure greater than 180 degrees, but less than 360 degrees, are called reflex angles. Let's review what we just learned. A circle measures 360 degrees. Angles measuring less than 90 degrees are called acute angles. Angles measuring exactly 90 degrees are called right angles. Angles measuring greater than 90 degrees and less than 180 degrees are called obtuse angles. Angles measuring exactly 180 degrees are called straight angles. Angles measuring greater than 180 degrees and less than 360 degrees are called reflex angles. And angles measuring exactly 360 degrees are called complete angles. Now let's think about how we might use all of that new knowledge about angles to help us classify triangles. We can classify triangles by their sides and angles. Some triangles have 3 equal sides and 3 equal angles. We call these triangles equilateral triangles. Some triangles have 2 equal sides and 2 equal angles. We call these triangles isosceles triangles. Some triangles have no equal sides or angles. We call these triangles scalene triangles. We can also classify triangles by their angles alone. Triangles with all 3 angles measuring less than 90 degrees are called acute triangles. This is because all 3 angles are acute. Triangles with 1 right angle are called right angle triangles or right triangles. Triangles with 1 obtuse angle are called obtuse triangles. Let's review everything we learned in this video lesson. First, we learned how to classify and name angles. Angles measuring less than 90 degrees are called acute angles. Angles measuring exactly 90 degrees are called right angles. Angles measuring greater than 90 degrees and less than 180 degrees are called obtuse angles. Angles measuring exactly 180 degrees are called straight angles. Angles measuring greater than 180 degrees and less than 360 degrees are called reflex angles. Angles measuring exactly 360 degrees are called complete angles, and a full circle measures 360 degrees. Next, we learned how to classify and name triangles by their sides and angles. Triangles with 3 equal sides and 3 equal angles are called equilateral triangles. Triangles with 2 equal sides and 2 equal angles are called isosceles triangles. Triangles with no equal sides or angles are called scalene triangles. Finally, we learned how to classify triangles by their angles alone. Triangles with all 3 angles measuring less than 90 degrees are called acute triangles. Triangles with 1 right angle are called right triangles. And triangles with 1 obtuse angle are called obtuse triangles.